My sister framed me for stealing her diamond necklace at her wedding rehearsal, but the truth destroyed her big day. Growing up, my sister Olivia always had a flair for the dramatic. She could turn the smallest inconvenience into a catastrophic event, and as the youngest in our family, she often got away with it. But even I couldn't have predicted how far she'd go to ruin my life, and nearly her own wedding. It all started the night before Olivia's wedding, during the rehearsal dinner. Olivia had insisted on hosting the event at a swanky country club, complete with champagne, a string quartet, and enough white roses to rival a royal wedding. I wasn't surprised. Olivia had always been obsessed with appearances. I arrived early to help my parents set up, even though Olivia and I weren't exactly on the best of terms. We'd grown apart over the years, mostly due to her tendency to treat me like an afterthought. Still, I figured it was her big day, and I didn't want to be the reason anything went wrong. The first red flag came when Olivia pulled me aside just as the guests began to arrive. "Ella," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "can you do me a huge favor?" I hesitated. Olivia's favors always came with strings attached. "What is it?" She handed me a velvet box containing a diamond necklace, for something borrowed from our grandmother. "Can you hold on to this for me? I don't want it to get lost before the ceremony tomorrow." I frowned. "Why don't you just wear it now? It's a rehearsal dinner, not a football game." Olivia rolled her eyes. "Ella, please, just do this one thing for me, okay?" Reluctantly, I agreed. I tucked the box into my clutch and spent the rest of the evening trying to avoid Olivia's demanding gaze. The dinner itself was uneventful, save for Olivia's fiancé, Daniel, giving an overly rehearsed toast about how lucky he was to marry her. I noticed he barely touched his food and avoided eye contact with Olivia, but I chalked it up to pre-wedding jitters. It wasn't until the end of the night that things took a turn. As guests began to trickle out, Olivia suddenly clapped her hands, drawing everyone's attention. "Wait, before anyone leaves, I need to say something." The room went silent. Olivia's expression shifted from cheerful to accusing in an instant. "My grandmother's diamond necklace," she began, her voice trembling. "It's missing." I froze, clutching my bag tighter. Surely, she didn't mean... "I gave it to Ella to hold earlier," Olivia continued, her eyes locking onto mine. "And now it's gone." A murmur spread through the room. I could feel the weight of dozens of stares as I stammered. "What? No, it's not gone. It's right here." I reached into my clutch, but my stomach dropped when my fingers brushed against empty fabric. The box was gone. "Ella," Olivia said, her voice cold now, "how could you lose something so important?" "I didn't lose it," I protested, panic rising. "I don't understand. It was here earlier." Olivia crossed her arms, her face a mask of disappointment. "You've always been careless, but this is a new low." "Olivia, I swear, I didn't." "Search her bag," someone whispered. "I have nothing to hide," I snapped, dumping the contents of my clutch onto the nearest table. Lipstick, keys, my phone, everything spilled out, but the necklace box was nowhere to be found. My parents looked mortified. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, as if he wanted to intervene but didn't dare. "Maybe it fell out," I offered weakly. "We should check around the room." Olivia shook her head. "This is unbelievable. You know how much that necklace means to me, to our family. And you couldn't even take care of it for one night?" Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "I didn't lose it. Someone must have taken it." "Oh, so now you're accusing someone else?" Olivia snapped. "How convenient." Before I could respond, Daniel finally spoke up. "Maybe we should all take a breath. It's late, and everyone's tired. We can look for the necklace in the morning." Olivia glared at him but relented. "Fine, but if it's not found by tomorrow, Ella, you're not welcome at the wedding." Her words hit me like a slap. "You can't be serious." "I'm dead serious," she replied, her tone icy. "I won't have a thief ruining my big day." The room cleared out quickly after that, leaving me standing there, humiliated and confused. As I drove home, I replayed the night in my head, trying to figure out where things had gone wrong. I knew I hadn't lost the necklace, and I certainly hadn't stolen it, but someone had, and they'd managed to pin the blame squarely on me. By the time I got home, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to let Olivia's accusations ruin my reputation or her wedding. I was going to find out what really happened to that necklace, no matter what it took. What I didn't realize was that the truth would be far more shocking than I could have imagined, and it would change everything. The night after the rehearsal dinner, I barely slept. Olivia's words played over and over in my head, her accusations cutting deeper than I wanted to admit. But what gnawed at me the most was the mystery of the missing necklace. I knew I hadn't lost it, but someone had taken it, and they'd made sure I looked guilty. The next morning, I arrived at the venue early, determined to clear my name. I wasn't just going to sit back and let Olivia, or anyone else, drag my reputation through the mud. The country club staff was busy setting up for the wedding, and no one seemed to notice me as I slipped into the rehearsal hall. I started retracing my steps from the night before, checking under tables and chairs, scanning the floor for any sign of the necklace or the velvet box. But it was no use. The place had been cleaned overnight, and if the necklace had been here, it was long gone now. Looking for something? I jumped, spinning around to see Daniel standing in the doorway. He looked as tired as I felt, his bow tie undone and his hair slightly disheveled. "Daniel," I said, trying to compose myself, "what are you doing here?" He shrugged. "Couldn't sleep. Figured I'd come early and make myself useful." "You?" "Same," I admitted. "I was hoping to find, you know." He nodded, stepping further into the room. "The necklace?" "Yeah." Daniel hesitated, then said, "Listen, Ella, I don't think you took it. For what it's worth." I blinked, caught off guard. "You don't?" He shook his head. "No. You've always struck me as honest, even if Olivia doesn't see it that way." I frowned. "Then why didn't you say anything last night?" "Because Olivia's my fiancée," he said simply, "and I'm trying to keep the peace. But between you and me, she can be a bit dramatic." A bitter laugh escaped me. "That's putting it lightly." Daniel offered a small smile, but it quickly faded. "Look, I shouldn't be saying this, but I overheard something last night, after everyone left." My heart skipped a beat. "What did you hear?" He hesitated again, glancing around as if to make sure we were alone. "Olivia was talking to her maid of honor, Sophie. I couldn't hear everything, but it sounded like she was planning something. She mentioned the necklace, and then I heard Sophie say, 'Are you sure this will work?' A chill ran down my spine. "You think Olivia set me up?" Daniel didn't answer directly. "All I'm saying is, it wouldn't be the first time she's bent the truth to get what she wants." I stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. If Olivia had orchestrated this whole thing, then why? What could she possibly gain from framing me? "Thanks for telling me," I said finally. He nodded, his expression conflicted. "Just be careful, Ella. Olivia doesn't like being crossed." With that, he left, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I couldn't confront Olivia directly, not without proof, but Daniel's words gave me a new sense of purpose. If Olivia was behind this, I needed to figure out how she did it and why. My first stop was Sophie. She'd been Olivia's best friend since college, and if anyone knew what was going on, it would be her. I found her in the bridal suite, helping Olivia with her hair. Olivia shot me a glare as soon as I walked in. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "I need to talk to Sophie," I said, ignoring her tone. "Whatever it is, it can wait," Olivia snapped. "We're busy." Sophie glanced between us, looking uncomfortable. "Actually, Liv, I need to grab something from my car. I'll be right back." Before Olivia could protest, Sophie slipped out of the room, and I followed her into the hallway. "Sophie, wait," I called. She turned to face me, her expression wary. "What do you want, Ella?" "I need to know the truth," I said. "About the necklace. Did Olivia set me up?" Sophie's eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought she was going to deny it. But then she sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Ella, I don't want to get involved in this." "You already are," I said firmly. "If Olivia's lying, she's dragging you into it too. Do you really want to be part of that?" Sophie hesitated, then said quietly, "I don't know all the details, okay? But she told me she had a plan to teach you a lesson." She didn't say what it was, but she mentioned the necklace and said something about making you own up to your mistakes. What mistakes? I asked, confused. Sophie shrugged. I don't know. Maybe she just wanted an excuse to make you look bad. My blood boiled. This wasn't just about the necklace. This was about Olivia's need to control everything, even if it meant tearing me down in the process. Thanks for telling me, I said, my voice tight. Sophie nodded, looking relieved to be off the hook. Just don't tell her I said anything, okay? Armed with this new information, I knew I had to confront Olivia, but not in private. If she was going to accuse me in front of everyone, then I was going to expose her just as publicly. I waited until the guests were seated for the ceremony, the chatter filling the air as they waited for the bride to make her grand entrance. Olivia was in the bridal suite, probably preening in front of the mirror, but I didn't care. I stepped onto the stage, grabbing the microphone meant for the officiant. The room fell silent as everyone turned to look at me. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, my voice steady despite the pounding of my heart. I have an announcement to make. The room buzzed with confusion as guests murmured among themselves. My parents, seated in the front row, exchanged worried glances, and Daniel stood frozen by the altar, his expression unreadable. I gripped the microphone tighter, my resolve hardening. If Olivia thought she could humiliate me without consequences, she was about to learn otherwise. Before we proceed with the ceremony, I began, my voice clear. I think it's only fair that everyone knows the truth about what happened at the rehearsal dinner last night. From the corner of my eye, I saw Olivia storming out of the bridal suite, her gown trailing behind her like a thundercloud. Her face was a mask of fury as she marched toward me. Ella, what are you doing? She hissed, her voice low but venomous. I ignored her, addressing the audience instead. Last night, Olivia accused me of stealing our grandmother's diamond necklace. She claimed she trusted me to keep it safe, and when it went missing, she made sure everyone believed I was at fault. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My mother looked horrified, while my father frowned deeply. That's enough, Ella. Olivia snapped, trying to grab the microphone, but I stepped out of her reach. But what Olivia didn't tell you, I continued, my voice rising, is that she orchestrated the whole thing. She set me up to look like a thief, all to satisfy her twisted need for control. Liar! Olivia shrieked, her composure cracking. I turned to her, meeting her furious gaze head-on. If I'm lying, Olivia, then why don't you explain what Sophie meant when she said you had a plan to teach me a lesson? Or how Daniel overheard you talking about making sure everything worked perfectly? Olivia's face paled, and the room fell deathly silent. Wait, someone from the audience said, breaking the tension. It was one of Olivia's bridesmaids, a tall woman with dark hair. Is this true, Olivia? Olivia stammered, her hands shaking. Of course not. Ella's just trying to ruin my wedding because she's jealous. Jealous of what? I shot back. Your manipulation? Your lies? Daniel stepped forward, his expression grim. Olivia, is there any truth to this? For a moment, Olivia looked like a cornered animal, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape. Then, in a last-ditch effort to regain control, she turned the tables. Fine, she spat. You want the truth? Yes, I set her up. But only because she's been nothing but a thorn in my side for years. She's always trying to overshadow me, always trying to make everything about her. The crowd erupted into shocked whispers. My mother buried her face in her hands, while my father looked as if he'd aged 10 years in a single moment. Olivia, Daniel said quietly, his voice laced with disbelief. You framed your own sister over a necklace? It's not just about the necklace. Olivia cried, her voice hysterical. It's about her always being in my way. I just wanted one day, that was all about me. As the crowd reeled from Olivia's confession, I took a deep breath, knowing I wasn't done yet. Well, Olivia, I said, my voice steady. If you wanted this day to be all about you, you've certainly succeeded. But I think it's time everyone knows the full truth, not just about the necklace, but about your perfect little relationship with Daniel. Olivia's face turned crimson. What are you talking about? I turned to Daniel, who looked at me with a mixture of confusion and dread. Daniel, you deserve to know that while Olivia was busy planning her wedding, she was also busy rekindling an old flame. The room gasped again, louder this time. What? Daniel's voice was sharp, his eyes narrowing. What is she talking about, Olivia? Olivia opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her silence was damning. Sophie told me everything, I continued, pushing forward. About the late-night phone calls, the secret meetings. Olivia's been seeing her ex, Ryan, for months. Daniel staggered back as if he'd been struck. Is this true? Olivia finally found her voice. Daniel, Don't, he interrupted, his tone icy. Don't even try to deny it. The room descended into chaos. Guests whispered furiously, some rising from their seats in shock. My parents looked as if the floor had been pulled out from under them, while Olivia stood frozen, her carefully curated world crumbling around her. Daniel turned to me, his face etched with pain. Ella, I'm so sorry you were dragged into this. It's not your fault, I said softly. Without another word, Daniel walked out of the hall, leaving Olivia standing there, abandoned and humiliated. For the first time in her life, Olivia was speechless. And for the first time in mine, I felt free. The chaos of the ceremony was just the prelude. As guests filed out of the venue, whispers and gasps followed Olivia like a shadow. My parents, still reeling from the public spectacle, tried to comfort her, but their words fell flat. Daniel was gone, and Olivia's perfect wedding was in shambles. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I hadn't planned to escalate things further, but when Olivia turned her tear-streaked face toward me, her eyes blazing with rage, she made her choice clear. This is all your fault, Ella, she screamed, her voice cracking. You've ruined everything. No, Olivia, I said calmly, my voice cutting through the noise. You did that all by yourself. As the guests dispersed, Olivia retreated to the bridal suite, likely to lick her wounds and plan her next move. My parents followed her, leaving me alone in the now empty hall. That's when the idea struck me. I remembered something Sophie had mentioned in passing, something about Olivia's insistence on handling all the wedding arrangements herself. She hadn't wanted anyone poking around or questioning her decisions, particularly when it came to the finances. Curious, I made my way to the venue's office, where the staff were tidying up. Flashing my most convincing smile, I approached the event coordinator. Hi, I said, pretending to fidget nervously. I'm Olivia's sister, Ella. She sent me to double-check some of the billing details. She's too upset to handle it herself right now. The coordinator hesitated, but eventually relented. Of course. Let me pull up the file. She handed me a tablet, and as I scrolled through the invoices, my suspicion was confirmed. Olivia hadn't just gone over budget. She'd maxed out the family credit card on extravagant, unnecessary expenses. A customized sculpture, imported floral arrangements, even a live string quartet for the cocktail hour. My parents had no idea. A wicked thought bloomed in my mind. Olivia had spent her life taking what she wanted, no matter the cost to others. It was time for her to learn what it felt like to lose something she cared about. Back in the bridal suite, Olivia was pacing furiously, her veil crumpled in her hands. My mother was trying to console her, while my father stood in the corner, looking defeated. Ella, my mother said, her tone pleading, please, can't we just put this behind us? For the family's sake? I ignored her, focusing on Olivia. I came to apologize, I said, keeping my voice steady. Olivia froze mid-step, her eyes narrowing. Apologize? You think a little apology will fix this? No, I said, but it's a start. Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she nodded grudgingly. Fine, say what you have to say. I'm sorry, I said, stepping closer. I'm sorry for exposing the truth in front of everyone. I should have handled it privately, but you left me no choice, Olivia. You pushed me too far. She opened her mouth to retort, but I cut her off. And I'm sorry for what's about to happen next. Her brow furrowed. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I'd created just minutes earlier. It contained photos of the invoices, screenshots of Olivia's text messages with Ryan, and even a video Sophie had recorded of Olivia ranting about her master plan to frame me. I've sent this to Daniel, I said, holding the phone up for her to see. And to everyone who attended the wedding. Olivia's face turned ghostly pale. You wouldn't. Oh, I already have, I said, my voice ice cold. My mother gasped, and my father finally stepped forward. Ella, what is this? It's the truth, I said, turning to him. Olivia didn't just sabotage her wedding. She sabotaged all of us. She drained the family credit card to pay for this disaster. She lied to Daniel. She lied to everyone. My father's face darkened. Olivia, is this true? I can explain. Olivia stammered, her composure crumbling. But my father wasn't interested in explanations. You've embarrassed this family for the last time, he said, his voice heavy with disappointment. As my parents stormed out, Olivia sank to the floor, her once pristine gown pooling around her like a fallen angel's wings. You think you've won, don't you? She spat, her voice trembling with rage. This isn't about winning, I said. It's about consequences. Something you've avoided your entire life. Olivia glared at me, her eyes burning with hatred. You're just as bad as me. Maybe worse. Maybe, I said, turning to leave. But at least I'm not a liar. As I walked out of the bridal suite, I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in years, I wasn't living in Olivia's shadow. Outside, the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the chaos of the day. Guests were still lingering, gossiping about the scandal that had unfolded before their eyes. I didn't care what they thought of me. For the first time in my life, I was free. And Olivia? She'd finally reaped what she'd sown.